Thomas the Tank Engine. You've probably heard of him. The fun-loving, yet also cheeky, three-wheeled little steam engine, who gets up to all sorts of adventures, like falling down a mine, meeting the Queen multiple times, or becoming a dragon overlord.
You're doing great.
For a show that began airing way back in 1984, it is crazy to think of just how popular and relevant Thomas went on to be, with over 500 television episodes, a cinematic film release, 13 other feature-length specials, live-action attractions,
Choo-choo, motherfucker.
and memes after memes after memes. The series is actually still in production to this day, though it has moved away from its charming model railway aesthetic to a modern-day generic CGI production.
Thomas had never seen such bullshit before.
I mean, the faces are moving. The faces are moving.
It's kind of creepy looking when it moves.
And it even looks like there's potential for another cinematic film release to come out, though this isn't yet confirmed. It does go to show though, just how popular and loved the franchise has become to both kids and adults over multiple generations. And with all that popularity, it may come to a surprise to most of you that back in the 80s, Thomas actually had a sister show.
This is Tugs,
which focused on the lives of tugboats rather than steam engines. And although Thomas is renowned for having its occasional darker and more spooky episodes, Tugs really blew that out of the water. No pun intended. But whereas Thomas saw great success and continued to run into production, Tugs did not, and only lasted a single season, with just 13 episodes being made. Which, given at how beautiful this show looked, and how well the characters and stories were crafted, it does seem so odd that it would fail so quick, whereas in contrast, Thomas succeeded. So we're going to take a look at this forgotten gem, and relive all of those beautiful childhood nightmares that had been plunged deep into the core of my brain. Tugs was produced by Tugs Limited for Television South and Clearwater Features. It first broadcast in April of 1989 and ended in June 1989. You can immediately see how this series had a similar look to Thomas the Tank Engine, and that's probably because it was created by Robert D. Cardona and David Mitton, the same people who had created the first two seasons of Thomas. The series is set in England during the 1920s, where we follow two rival tugboat fleets as they compete for contracts in the big city port. The first of the fleets are the Star Tugs. They are the honest and hard-working tugboats that we, the audience, are meant to root for. On this team we have 10 Cents, Big Mac, OJ, Top Hat, Warrior, Hercules, and Sunshine, who joins the Star Tug crew in the first episode. Each of these characters are distinctive in both their appearance and personalities. 10 Cents being the young and cheeky,
Sunshine! Only good for day workers here. Might brighten you up a bit, Top Hat.
Top Hat being the posh and snobby,
Garbage? Me? Do I have to put up with this?
I have to put up with you, Top Hat.
Warrior being the strong yet not too bright,
Why couldn't I have been a liner, I wonder?
'Cause you're not big enough.
You are silly, Warrior.
and Hercules, my personal favourite, being the smooth talking classy tug.
And you don't know to let check things out.
Check all you like, sweetheart. I'm needed elsewhere.
Stay right where you are. There's an order.
Hello.
The Star Tugs are led by Captain Star, who, like all the other humans in the show, is never shown to be on screen, but instead only seen talking through a megaphone. He also provides the narration for each episode, and is brilliantly voiced by Patrick Allen, whose voice just makes everything feel so much more dramatic.
The bridge was weakened by the accident. Top Hat could only hope his idea would work. There was no way of warning the train.
Unlike in Thomas, however, the narrator doesn't voice all of the characters, and instead each have their own individual voices, which I think helps give further distinction to their personalities. Then on the other Tug fleet we have the Z-Stacks, who I don't really want to say are the straight up bad guys, but they are the antagonists. The reason I don't want to say bad guys is because they aren't really straight up evil, they're just more like an aggressive business rival, who will use cheap tricks and tactics to try and one up the Star Tugs. But there are instances in the series where the Z-Stacks and Star Tugs will work together to overcome a greater threat. On the Z-Stack fleet we have Zip, Zug, Zack, Zebedee, and Zoran, who, yes, as you can tell, all have their names beginning with Z, which makes me wonder if they just refuse to hire Tugs that don't begin with the letter Z, or they just have their name changed once they're recruited. And again, like the Star Tugs, each Z-Stack has their own distinct personality, Zip being the younger and more naive,
Dinkans are gonna find they missed a boat, or my name's not Zoran.
But it is Zoran, isn't it?
Zebedee seemingly having more of a conscience and even coming across as a good guy in some instances, and my personal favourite, Zoran, who I just love his sly and blunt attitude.
There's two things wrong with that order, mister. Warrior don't move fast. His lights may be on, but there's no one there.
The Z-Stacks are all led by Captain Zero, who doesn't really feature that much, but we get the impression that he's a pretty big deal, who probably had a lot of criminal connections in his past.
Listen to me, kid. Zero owes me, understand? So don't get funny or you'll be in deep trouble, and I do mean deep.
You also get some other minor characters that appear, such as Lily Lightship, Grampus, who was a naval submarine, but as a kid I thought was some kind of weird fish.
Oh, it looks like a tin fish round you, Lily. Very funny.
Billy Shupak, a character called Boomer, yes, Boomer.
Okay, Boomer.
And Izzy Gomez.
Viva, viva, viva! You guys is always trying to tell me I need a tow. Move out of my way, please.
Hey, you guys, I need a tow.
We don't accept bananas as payment.
Hey, big shots.
That's good old-fashioned family racism.
What do you know about it, you South American eater of junk?
I mean, what next? You're gonna tell me that the one Australian character also happens to be a criminal?
What you doing?
Sorry, mate. The wind must have blown me off course.
Oh. The thing that you've really got to appreciate with this show is just the production value it has. I mean, just look at it. The low angles and close-up shots make everything feel so much larger than it actually is, and the set pieces are just so well crafted. I mean, I like the model look of Thomas the Tank Engine, but Tugs really was superior in this aspect. When I was researching into behind the scenes of this show, I was genuinely shocked at just how small the actual models were, and at just how small the production set was, where they basically had to take down and rebuild the set for every new location in the show. In fact, it took over a whole year just to make the 13 episodes. That's insane. Another cool thing is that I assumed the tugboats themselves were just remote control boats that the team sailed around. But in actual fact, they weren't. Yes, they were remote controlled, but that was purely for the movement of the heads and the eyes. The movement for the tugboats themselves was actually from a trolley attached below them that the crew would push along, and the steam coming out of their smokestacks was transferred through a long pipe that connected beneath. Like, how cool is that? And of course, I need to mention the music score, which complements the aesthetic of this show beautifully. And fun fact, the music composers for this show were the same two that did the original Thomas the Tank Engine, which when you listen closely, you can actually hear some similarities.
Tides were beginning to thaw. It was a busy time for everybody. Upriver operations got underway again.
The music really does help immerse you into the atmosphere. From the tense score we get in the spooky situation,
Made his way through the dark shapes of moored boats and trampers, trying to make sure the ghost tugs weren't following him.
to the dramatic theme that plays as the train approaches a broken railway bridge, to a beautiful vocal track used to see off a cruise ship.
But no matter how far away you are, know that I'm here to guide you home.
And of course, we've got the main theme of the show, which, similar to Lolo the Penguin, just has this really grand energy to it. Alright, let's get on to my favourite topic of this show, the dark and creepy moments. Not only did this show look more professional, but it also had a much more mature theme to it than other typical kids shows at the time. Where to begin? Well, there's an episode where a Tug has to carry out crimes for these two freaky looking gangsters, because if he doesn't, they will quite literally kill his uncle who they've taken hostage.
Deliver or he sinks.
There's an episode where the naval submarine Grampus is going to be blown up by the Navy, as he has become too old and obsolete, and he is just so complacent with the fact that he's about to die.
It's no use, they'd catch up with me again somewhere. Thanks for all the fun we had together. Bye 10 cents, bye!
Bye.
There's an episode where one of the Z-Stacks has to carry out work for a criminal gangster, or else the criminal gangster will quote unquote sink him.
Don't try anything fancy, or you'll find yourself at the bottom of the harbour with cement in your hold.
Like, there is a lot of reference to death and crime in this series. But two episodes I want to focus on in particular are Ghosts and Munitions, as these two really take it to the next level, Munitions especially. Let's first take a look at Ghosts. This is the dedicated spooky episode of the series, and takes place where a huge fog has fallen on the dockyard, which again, credit to the production team, manages to give the setting a truly eerie feel. Throughout the night, there are these numerous sightings of these ghostly white tugs that sail eerily silent through the night, and every time they appear, you get these creepy chants playing.
Who's out there doing that? Can't hear their engines. It's funny.
Then there's this scene towards the end where an old ship rises out of the ocean, and the motion of how it comes out just gives you such an unsettling tone. And finally, we have the episode that ruined me as a kid, Munitions. Oh boy, Munitions. The episode seemingly directed by Michael Bay. Michael Bay Boats. Good joke. In this episode, the Tugs are loading up a tanker with dangerous explosives, and the episode is very quick to let you know that there's a heightened level of danger in the air.
Just keep it steady. Keep flying that danger flag.
As the last of the explosives are being loaded aboard, a naval tug named Blue Nose barges through and knocks into the explosive barge, causing a fire to start.
Now look what's happened, you dummy!
Oh no, that engine's quick!
And from then on in, it's just all hell breaks loose. Man, the production team really went all out on this one, as they just nuked the entire set. Because if it exists, it's probably going to explode. Dockyard? Boom. Railway? Boom. Fuel tanks? Boom, boom, boom. I mean, people talk about Thomas and how that can have a few explosions here and there. Well, it's got nothing on Tugs. The tugboats do their best to put out the fire, but to no avail, which eventually leads to the death of the large crane, Big Mickey. It was a really dramatic moment. And I would like to say that he died in this moment, but despite how horrific the scene looks, I suppose he technically didn't die, as he does appear in later episodes. But let's face it, after falling from that height and plunging into the ocean, yeah, Big Mickey would be dead. Also to die was the large tanker ship that had been loaded in the first place. Which, yeah, I know it doesn't have a face, but it is hinted at in the show that all of these ships have sentient life to them. So yeah, we just witnessed a living boat die right in front of us on screen. Rest in peace, Tanker, and all of your crew.
Oh dear. Seems I'm too late to save the day.
Well, get a drift of that, will you, lads? Top hat, all dressed up and nowhere to go.
Everyone's dead. So if Tugs was such a great show, why did it only last 13 episodes? Well, originally a second series was planned for release, but unfortunately the studio at the time, Television South, went bankrupt and so had to cancel production, leading to the other studio, Clearwater Features, having to sell off the models and props, in which some were actually bought by the Thomas studio at the time, Britt Allcroft Company, where if you look closely, you can see some of them being used as background models in Thomas episodes. Thankfully though, it's not all bad news, as some of the original props and models were later found and purchased by a group of fans, and have been restored and put on display at Midlands Railway in Derbyshire. Sadly though, due to the pandemic, the exhibition has had to close for the remainder of the year.
You're infected. But I'm innocent. I'm completely innocent. Get quarantine flags up. Right now, Zoran.
But the Trust has stated that the exhibition plans on reopening in 2021. So best of luck to them. So in conclusion, Tugs really was a grand show that in my opinion, stood way above the competition at the time, with its exceptional visuals, immersing music, and compelling story. Because each episode had a longer runtime of 15 to 20 minutes, stories and characters could be better developed with good pacing, and the show just had a much more mature feel to it than other kids shows. And not just through the darker moments that I mentioned earlier, but just in general, as the way the tugboats talk to each other makes it sound more like a pub conversation between adults rather than kid-like characters speaking simplistically.
Never knew 10 cents is into daylight robbery, did you?
Get on with your work, or there'll be daylight robbery out of your pay packets.
Anyway, that's all for today. Please leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and comment below on any other Dark Kids TV shows that you think I should cover in future. But until the next one, take care.